Well, it's that time of year, high summer. Yeah, we're getting there. And of course, now my TV has been broken and I haven't installed the new one yet. So I haven't even been watching weather reports from the mainland. I don't know what's happening. Last I checked, it was really hot over there, right? And probably still pretty hot in a lot of places. It's middle of summer. Well, I remember when I ran nursery in California. Now, California gets a pretty good amount of sunshine. It's a sunshine state. They get a fair amount of heat, too. Even near the coast, it can get pretty warm at times. So it can get warm. It can get sunny. But the main thing they have in California is drought. Summer comes, ain't no rain nowhere. It's drought. Oh, yeah. So I'd have people coming in the nursery frequently when I worked in Fremont, California, near the San Francisco Bay. It was not unusual that people would come in and say, "Oh, my garden vegetables are burning in the sun. There's too much sun for them. I need shade cloth." They'd come in trying to buy shade cloth to put over their tomatoes, and Yeah, you drive through the Interior Valley and you see miles and miles and miles of tomatoes out in full roasting sun, for Heinz ketchup and tomato soup and everything else we eat. And you go, "What? No, your tomatoes are not sunburning, man. Okay, that just doesn't happen." Most garden vegetables are definitely sun-loving plants. They use the sun to make sugars. They use the sugars to grow. And so when you reduce the amount of sunlight that's coming onto a vegetable crop, you reduce the sugar production. When you reduce the sugar production, you reduce the response in the plant to that growth. So that if it's a flowering plant, it may not flower if you shade it. That means it won't fruit. Now, if it's a parsley, something where we just eat the leaves, or if it's lettuce or maybe basil, where it's only the green leaves that are eaten, it's possible to reduce the sunlight on a crop where only the green is eaten, because it takes a lot of sun to make flowers and fruit, but not so much to make greens. So you could grow lettuce, for instance, if you're in interior California this time of year, and and it's well over 100 degrees. I don't even know if I'd try, but there you're shading. Of course, I get problems with shading here on lettuce because of the amount of clouds we get. Some varieties, the stalk wants to enlarge because I'm not getting enough light. Yeah, I get large central stems in some lettuce. Now, this is not bolting, all right? Don't mistake it for bolting. It's an enlarged central stem that has to do with the plant actually reaching for more light. Some varieties do it, some don't. No, the ones that do it, I don't grow them anymore. But yeah, I'd have people come in and they'd be telling me, "Oh no, my crops are burning because there's too much sunlight." Well, there are, two basic sorts of plants, I guess, if you're looking at it from garden or nursery perspective. There's shade lovers and sun lovers. You take an azalea and you put it out in full sun in an Arizona desert, and yeah, it's going to burn right up. It doesn't belong there. On the other hand, shading tomatoes, no, that's not. In California, when these problems occur, mostly it's lack of water. Yeah. People just don't understand how much water it takes to raise a crop of tomatoes. That's the big one. Now, sometimes it's disease. Yeah, you get certain wilts and things in tomatoes, and they don't look healthy, So you can have diseases. It's possible you could have an infestation of nematode on the root, causing the plant to look poor. That's also another possibility, but it's not the sunlight. It's not the sunlight. Yeah, so that brings me to another point, and it is the difference between brown thumb gardeners and green thumb gardeners. They never meet in the middle. Yeah, the brown thumb gardeners, well, they're all about observation. 80% observation. They walk out, they look at something, they go, oh my goodness, look at that. Well, brown thumb gardeners are not a whole lot about analysis or research. No, they're knee-jerk people. Now, they look, they see trouble. They don't really know what the trouble is, but they think they know, and so they treat for the wrong thing, sometimes destroying the crop or the plant because of what they did. Now, the brown thumb gardener, that's generally the problems they have. They don't research, and their observation is the limit, okay, of in other words, I see it and I do. Not I see, I investigate, I research, I do, maybe. Yeah, the green thumb gardener, he's a maybe gardener. He may not do anything. Things that the brown thumb gardeners will see on the plants, some aphids maybe, for instance. And they'll, get crazy and, take full strength malathion, throw it on the plant and completely kill a peach tree. I've seen this happen, honest. It's real. I've seen people kill crops with insecticide by failing to dilute them or failing to dilute them properly, overusing things and so on, when they didn't really need to. If it was an aphid, on the tree, all they really had to do was get out there with a garden hose and wash that thing down, band it so that the ants don't get in and they can't farm the aphids and so on. You don't really need to spray anything other than water. Anyway, this is what I have seen. The difference between the green and the brown thumbs. The green guys, they look at it, they see it. If they don't know what it is, they go figure it out. Yeah, they do research. And then they'll make a decision. Does it need treatment? Can we just leave it alone? They're not knee-jerk. Thoughtful people, green thumb gardeners, they oftentimes understand the need to do nothing. Yeah. It happens a lot. It's this whole thing with people. We must do something, That's how we get brown thumb gardeners. Anyway, so I had one come up yesterday. It was one of the visitors that was by yesterday. Tell me about their cannabis crop. This is the first I'd heard of this one. Okay. Oh, I had to move my cannabis crop into the shade. The plants were burning from too much sunlight, the person tells me. I look at him and I go, you got something in your eye maybe, I think. Cannabis is a full sun plant. It is, in its origin, definitely a weed. It loves sunlight. In fact, the cannabinoids are produced generally in response to ultraviolet radiation. Yeah, and so the more radiation you pour at your cannabis, perhaps the stronger it becomes. That's why some of the high mountain stuff is so strong. Yeah, radiation. Well, yeah, so this person says, I had to move him. I said, that's not sunburn. And so we're back to this brown and green thumb thing, Takes one look, sees, the leaves look like they're burning or turning yellow. The plant must be getting too much sunlight. Yeah, that's not a logical conclusion. All right, and especially now with cannabis, you want to pour that radiation on that stuff. Okay, so I said, well, have you looked really close? Well, the answer is no. Just saw yellow leaves in the plant. Must be burning. So the analysis is lacking. Well, having been in some harvest on my crop at the moment, I am very familiar with the problem that tends to rise up during warm summer weather, and it's called a budworm. Yeah, it's a caterpillar. This moth comes around, finds your cannabis, says, "Oh, wow," and lays eggs on the flowers, and then these caterpillars come out and they chew into the flowers. Well, they're going to cause a couple of different things to happen. One, you will see, if you're watching closely, little holes in the shade leaves that indicate you have a little beginning of a budworm in there. The moth almost always seems to lay the eggs on the leaves, and then the worms will move inward to the stronger parts of the plant. That's what it looks like, at least, I think. And, well, I've been doing harvesting at this time. The whole spring crop is finished and coming in now. And yes, on some of the plants, I am finding little teeny weeny worms that I hadn't really not detected because the damage was so small. It kind of surprised me as I was clipping and trimming away. All of a sudden, a worm comes crawling out at me, and I went, "Oh no, they are in here." Yes, well, I cut them in two. That's my usual treatment for budworms. Cut them in two. Well, after the visitor yesterday, and I had informed them, you better go look for bugs in your buds, bub. Not sunlight. And, well, I went out this morning and I said, well, it looks like I better be harvesting some of this too because the budworms are around. Sure enough, I got it in here at the table. I took one look at it and actually I could see, yeah, you get good at this. You could tell, even at a distance, oh no, the budworms are here. Well, and I saw it, and so I brought it in. Well, the surprise for me was that I had, the other day, microscopic worms. All right, they're so small you could hardly see them. Not today. I have pretty good-sized caterpillars. Yeah, they're sizing up well, and they're eating a lot. They had damaged a fair amount of flower. Now, on some strains, this is going to result in bud rot, botrytis, or under certain weather conditions, too. When the worm gets in, starts chewing, opens up the tissue, and then craps all over it. Yeah, it's fertilizer. Boom, the mold starts. Typically, when you have bad mold infestations, that is the brown, fuzzy one, yeah, that's usually a result of worm damage. Now, that is, at least in the sorts of strains that I tend to raise, because I like to use outdoor strains, and they don't mold easily, or do they rot easily unless there's damage. Yeah, when I start seeing rot, I know I got worms. Now, the worms today that I found took me a little bit by surprise. I knew they were there, but they were a little bigger than I expected them to be. Yeah, it surprised me. They can get lodged way down inside, too. They'll crawl their way in there so you don't even think there's anything, and you really got to dissect it all before you finally come up with a worm. But the track is visible. Observe. Yes, use observations and then use the observations for analysis. Don't just glance, go, oh, trouble. Oh, too much sun. The leaves turning yellow. Move it in the shade. Let the worms eat it where it's a little cooler. They like shade. Yeah. All right. So beware. It's not the sunlight, folks. It's not the sunlight. You probably have a budworm. If you're here in Hawaii, yeah, you got one. They're out. Okay. Hang loose. Aloha.